I'm here at the Dundas Skating Park. Today it's kind of busy, there's another skateboarder. I thought I'd come by, reshoot a few of the segments that got messed up yesterday. It's also a beautiful day today. The sun's out, the puddles have dried up, the rink is nice and puddle free. The birds are out, it's a late summer, early fall kind of situation, and it's just perfect. So I'm wearing my Ray Barbee shirt. I'll give you a good view of that right now. And Ray Barbee, he was an amateur skateboarder for Powell Peralta back in 1988 when the public domain video came out. And that video was really important to me and my friends because it was one of the first times we had seen skaters skating together on the streets. 3 or 4 guys going down the streets of what I think was Los Angeles and skateboarding and doing all these tricks. And it was that combination of a group of friends skateboarding together in the streets and doing these magical maneuvers with their feet that was just mesmerizing for me and my friends. So we sought to emulate that kind of scenario in northern Ontario, in the streets of Barrie. And amongst that group of skaters, Ray Barbee, who was just an amateur but soon to turn professional, he stood out because of his fluid footwork. And he kind of borrowed a lot of these moves from freestyle skateboarding. So street skateboarders tend to hang out at an obstacle, try to do a trick on the obstacle, maybe film themselves doing the trick on the obstacle, and then they move on to another spot, another obstacle. Freestyle skateboarders, they do a bunch of tricks in a series, and in between those tricks they glue the tricks together, they sew them together with footwork. And so they do a kind of dance routine. And Ray Barbee did this on the streets. He had the freestyle moves that he would do along down the sidewalk, and then he would do some street moves like a board slide across a bench. And it was just great. He was doing airwalks and no complies, and he was doing shove-its and 360 shove-its. What used to be called a heli-pop, but is now called a 360 nollie. And he did it all with this elegance that just made it look effortless. I had 2 of his skateboards growing up. It was my favorite skateboard, and it was a really nice shape. Back then, skateboards didn't often have very big noses. My freestyle deck has a big nose, and it's like it got a kicktail and a flat nose. Nowadays, all the street boards have double kicktails, and they're basically larger versions of a freestyle deck. You've got a lot of nose to work with. The boards back then didn't really have a big nose, they had a small nose. Ray Barbee's board had a fairly generous sized nose. It wasn't huge by today's standards, but it was still pretty big. And that let him do tricks like the step off shove it or the no comply shove it, which I'm going to show you today a variation of. I mean, he still skateboards, I believe. He's a musician. He was a pro skateboarder for many years. And he was one of my personal heroes growing up, and one of the people that I tried to emulate in learning how to skateboard on the streets. And a lot of that influence, as I said, came from freestyle skateboarding. I like to warm up with some spacewalks because it's a good way to get your core limber and to activate the lower back muscles. See how long you can go before all 4 wheels touch the ground, and then wind up with a G-turn. That's a pretty good warm-up. Of course, you want to do some stretching too. But what I really want to talk about are no complies, which are a street move that made their way into freestyle. It's kind of interesting because a lot of street moves started out as freestyle moves, like the kickflip or the airwalk. But the no comply started out as a street move created by John Lucero and popularized by Neil Blender. Here you see him doing a no comply over a parking block. But it was Ray Barbee who really took the no comply and turned it into an art form. So here he is doing a 180 no comply to shifty on flat ground. So for a no comply, you step off the board with your front foot, and then you steer the board around with your back foot. That one didn't work. I find the key to these tricks is to bend your back knee towards the center of your board, and that gives you the control you need to steer it. I like to think that that truck driver was honking for me. The very first trick that I learned on a skateboard is called a shove-it. And in this trick, the board spins 180 degrees underneath your feet, but your feet stay in the same spot. So what used to be the tail of your board is now at the front, and you're standing on the nose of your board. You can do other variations, such as a 360 degree shove-it or a 540 degree shove-it, and you can combine these with other tricks to make combo tricks, which I'm going to show you in just a second here. So that was a shove-it to skid stop, which wasn't exactly what I'm trying to do, but let's see. There it is. That's a shove-it to manual to shove it out. So it's actually 3 tricks put together. So the 360 shove-it is a trick I used to love to do. I did it all the time. But I haven't been able to do it for the past couple of years. I don't know why I'm having so much trouble getting my back foot back on the board. I think I'm just afraid of hurting my knee or falling. But I'm hoping to be able to do this one sometime soon. Again. Whoa, out of control. So what happens if you combine a shove-it with a no-comply? Ray Barbee used to do these all the time. I don't know if he invented them. And we were talking earlier about how he had a pretty good nose on his board. That's what let him do these step-off, no-comply shove-its. Because he would skate with the board backwards, and he would do the no-comply shove-it off the nose. The problem with my freestyle board is it has a square nose rather than a taper nose, so when you try to do the shove-it part, the board actually wants to do an extra little flip. But that is a variation of a no-comply shove-it. First try. So what's happening is I'm stepping off the board's flipping 180 degree, but it's also doing an extra little kick flip, which makes it a slightly more complicated trick. Ooh, second try. I guess technically that's a pressure flip and not a kick flip, because you're using the corner of the tail of your board for the flip rather than your front foot as in a kick flip. So that's it for episode 2 of Old Dog New Tricks. Thanks everyone for watching. If you liked the video, please subscribe to my channel. And stay tuned for episode 3, where we take a trip to Barrie, Ontario to check out historic Barrie skateboarding spots. I'll see you on the flip side. Or not.